I had a gut feeling this Christmas dinner would end badly the second I walked in. It's not like I didn't know what to expect, same story every year. But this time, I was determined to stay calm no matter what. I'm Maya, the youngest of four, though being the youngest never meant anything sweet in my family. If anything, it gave them more reason to treat me like I didn't matter. I'm used to it by now. I'm 28, but in their eyes, I'm still the baby. I don't have a husband or kids like my siblings, but I've made a life I'm proud of. I've got a career I love, real friends, and a kind of independence they just can't seem to understand. But in my family, it's always been about marriage and kids. Nothing else counts. Christmas dinner is always a big deal. It's one of the few times we all come together at my parents' big old Victorian house. It looks great in pictures, but it's cold and lifeless, just like my parents. I never liked the place, but I still show up every year because, well, family. I arrived just after everyone else. My oldest brother Chris was already there with his wife and their 3 loud kids, taking over the place like they owned it. My sister Amy had shown up too with her husband and baby, perfect as always, showing off their flawless little life. My parents were busy in the kitchen, pretending to be in control while somehow making everyone feel like children. I quietly walked in, trying to avoid the inevitable mess. When my mom saw me, she put on that forced smile she always does. The kind that says, "You're not really welcome, but we're being polite." "Maya, sweetie," she said, hugging me like it was a chore. "So glad you could make it. Go ahead and sit." Before I could reply, my dad shouted from the next room in his usual commanding tone, "Dinner's almost ready. Chris, Amy, get the kids set up." I stood there awkwardly, unsure what to do or say. I didn't want to cause a scene. It was Christmas. Then, in her gentle but patronizing voice, my mom said, "Maya, why don't you sit at the kids' table? We've got a spot just for you over there with the cousins." I froze. I couldn't believe it. She really asked me to sit at the kids' table. The same one they set up every year with random chairs, paper plates, and cheap decorations. I looked toward the adult table, beautifully set with real dishes, wine glasses, and candles. My dad sat proudly at the head, surrounded by my married siblings. No room for me. I turned back to my mom, fighting the anger rising inside me. I felt that old sting again, the one I get every time they remind me I'm not enough. It wasn't new, but it still hurt. This time was different, though. It felt deliberate. They knew exactly what they were doing. I forced a smile, my voice flat. "Sure, Mom. Thanks." She smiled too, that same fake one, acting like everything was perfect. She didn't care how I felt. She just wanted the picture to look good. I walked over to the kids' table, every step heavier than the last. I knew better than to expect anything else, but still, a small part of me had hoped they'd finally treat me like an adult. I sat down in a flimsy plastic chair, surrounded by toddlers more focused on their mashed potatoes than the awkward tension. The younger cousins ignored me completely. I looked at the plate in front of me. Food slapped on with no care. One of the toddlers dropped broccoli under the table and I wanted to scream. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the table. It wasn't about tradition or even the holiday. This was about how they saw me, as someone who didn't belong. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. And something in me broke. I stood up quietly, the weight of it all sitting on my chest. I didn't say a word. I didn't make a scene. I grabbed my coat, threw it over my shoulder, and headed for the door. Just as I opened it, my mom called out, "Maya, where are you going?" Her voice sounded confused, maybe a little annoyed. I didn't look back. "I'm leaving," I said flatly. "Enjoy your dinner." The door slammed behind me. The cold air hit me hard, but I didn't care. My car was parked down the street. I got in and drove for hours. No destination, just moving. Eventually, I ended up at a quiet diner, sitting alone in a booth. I ordered something warm, my hands still shaking. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this much rage and relief at once. That's when my phone started buzzing. Calls, texts, nonstop. I glanced at the screen. Chris, Amy, even Dad. But the one that stood out came from my mom. "Where are you? We need to talk." "This isn't funny, Maya." A smirk crossed my face. I wasn't answering. Not yet. This time, I held the power. They had no idea what was coming. I set the phone down and sipped my coffee, the steam curling in the air. What would I do next? Even I didn't know, but I was sure of one thing. They wouldn't like it. I sat in that diner for what felt like hours, phone buzzing every few minutes. The messages started piling up, getting more frantic. Chris messaged, "Maya, this isn't funny. Where are you?" Amy followed up with, "Mom's freaking out, just come back." Then Dad, "Stop acting like a child, get back here." I didn't reply. I didn't owe them anything. They made their choice when they decided I wasn't worth a seat at their table. All I had wanted was to be treated like an equal, like an adult. But they decided I was still the kid who needed to be tucked away with the little ones. After an hour, I picked up my phone again. The pressure was building. They were starting to realize I wasn't going to play along. Then my mom's text came in, and my stomach turned. "Maya, I don't understand why you're doing this. Your siblings are concerned, and this is ruining Christmas. Don't make this about you. You're being selfish." I stared at the message, the anger rising again. Selfish? They were the selfish ones. This whole night was about them, about how things looked. To her, I was the issue. Typical. I didn't even know if I should laugh or cry. Instead, I blocked her number. I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me, not anymore. I took a deep breath. This wasn't a random outburst. I knew exactly what I was doing. They had pushed me too far, and I wasn't going to let it slide. After I finished my meal and calmed down a little, I opened the family group chat. It was already blowing up, with messages about me. "She's being ridiculous," someone had written. "She's acting like a child," said another. I just stared at the screen, ready to make my next move. Who needed to apologize? Like I was the one who ruined everything just by standing up for myself. But this time, it didn't work. This time, I saw it for what it was. Control disguised. As concern, guilt masked as love. I wasn't buying it. I sat back and let the message hang in the air. I didn't need to answer it. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I had done enough of that my whole life. Explaining, justifying, shrinking myself so I could fit into their neat little narrative. But I was done shrinking. I was done being the quiet one at the edge of the family photo, the one they barely noticed until it was time to clean up or take the blame. I had a voice now, and whether they wanted to hear it or not, they were going to feel its absence. Later that night, as I finally started to drift off to sleep in my tiny apartment far from that cold, pristine house, I realized something. Freedom doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of a blocked number, an unsent reply, a table you choose to walk away from. Let them keep their perfect dinner. Let them talk. Let them wonder what happened to the version of me they thought they could control. Because the truth is, I didn't ruin Christmas. They did. All I did was finally stop pretending it was ever perfect in the first place, causing trouble just because I wanted to be treated like an adult. That's how they saw it. Then came my dad's message. "This is childish. We need to talk when I." Calm down. And of course, Chris chimed in. "If you think walking out of dinner made a statement, you're wrong. You're just making things worse. You owe us an apology." An apology? For what? Standing up for myself? For finally demanding the same respect they handed out so freely to everyone else but me? No, I wasn't apologizing. Not this time. Then, I saw Amy's message. It felt different. Not angry, not controlling, almost genuine. Maya, I know you're upset and I understand why. But this isn't the way to fix things. You're my sister and I love you. But you're pushing everyone away. Please, just come home. We can talk. It's Christmas, for God's sake. I stared at it for a while. Amy had always been the one I was closest to. She'd defended me when we were kids. But now, I wasn't sure I could trust her. Not after all the times she stood by and said nothing, let things slide when she knew they were wrong. I wanted to reply. I wanted to tell her I wasn't being dramatic, that I wasn't trying to cause problems. I was just done being treated like the family's permanent child. But instead, I typed out something simple. I'll think about it. I hit send, feeling a sting of guilt, but also relief. I wasn't going back to that dinner table until something changed. Really changed. The next morning, I woke up to even more messages. A few were from family friends asking where I was. They seemed genuinely concerned, but I didn't owe them an explanation. They hadn't lived my story. Then came the calls from my mom, relentless. And again, another message from Amy. I've been talking to Chris and Mom. They're really upset. And honestly, so am I. We're a family. You can't just isolate yourself from us like this. If you don't come home soon, it's going to get worse. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. More pressure, more guilt, still no accountability. They were doing what they always did, twisting the story to make me look like the problem, like I was tearing the family apart, when the truth was they never really accepted me as an equal to begin with. I opened the group chat and stared at the screen. I wanted to say something powerful to make them get it, but I hesitated. I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure that they were willing to actually see me, to respect me. The real me. Then my phone buzzed again. It was Dad this time. Maya, we need to talk. You can't just keep running away. You'll regret this. That hit hard. The same guilt trip language. The same manipulation dressed up as concern. I felt the pressure rising, but I stayed quiet. I didn't respond. Not yet. The day dragged on. My phone buzzed over and over. Calls, messages, desperate attempts to pull me back in. But I kept my distance. I had drawn a line, and I wasn't stepping back over it. That evening, I sat alone, looking at the empty chair across from me, the one that would have been mine at the dinner. A small part of me wanted to give in, to smooth it all over. It was Christmas, after all. But I knew what would happen if I did. They'd take my silence as surrender, my return as proof that they were right and I was just overreacting, and I wasn't willing to do that. I thought about the photo I had posted in the group chat, that one perfect family picture, everyone smiling, except me. That photo said everything. I'd always been on the edge, always the afterthought. Every year, every holiday pushed aside, expected to be grateful just to be included. Not anymore. Then my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated, finger hovering over the screen. And then, against every instinct, I picked up. Maya, she said, her voice tired. We need to talk. This has gone on long enough. I said nothing, just waited. We're family. You're making this more complicated than it has to be. I don't know what's gotten into you, but you're pushing everyone away. Your dad's upset, Chris is upset, Amy. She paused. I'm upset. I nearly laughed. They were upset? After everything? I took a breath. I'm not pushing anyone away, Mom, I said, steady. I'm just not playing the game anymore. I'm not going to sit at the kids' table, be treated like I don't matter, and pretend everything's fine. There was a long silence. You can't just leave us hanging like this. Your dad's trying to make Christmas special. The whole family is here. It's not just about you, Maya, she said, her voice almost pleading. You're breaking the family apart. I felt the anger rise, but I kept calm. I've spent my whole life trying to make things work, trying to fit into the version of me you all wanted. But no one ever really saw me, did they? You didn't want me as an adult. You just wanted me quiet. She didn't respond at first. I could hear the silence stretching across the line. Then finally, "I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't know you felt that way." "Yeah," I said, my voice softer. "It took me a long time to realize it too, but I'm done pretending." Another pause. Then a sigh. "I get it. I really do. But I'm still your mother. I just want us to be a family again." I let her words sit there for a second. There was a time I would have clung to that sentence. But now, it wasn't enough. "I'll think about it," I repeated. But this time, it wasn't out of guilt. It was on my terms. "Okay," she said quietly. "I just want you to be happy." I hung up and sat there for a long moment, taking it all in. No, it wasn't a perfect ending. But for the first time, I wasn't giving in. I wasn't letting them shape my identity anymore. I looked out the window as snow drifted quietly in the dark. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew, one thing for sure, I was finally free. And as for Christmas, it wasn't ruined, not this time. Because for once, I chose me. Let me know in the comments, did I do the right thing? Or did I just walk away from something that could have been fixed